It's Labor Day weekend, September 2nd, 2015, 7:42 p.m. The parking area of Kendra's home, Gables Park, 17 apartment complex. Kendra was returning home after a long and busy but fairly standard day. She was ready to have some food with Ricky, relax for the evening, and do some packing. It was her last day of work for a while before the couple went off traveling the next day. But within seconds of Kendra pulling into her parking spot, someone heard a scream and a popping sound. They ran over and saw Kendra crumpled on the ground, her car door still open, her scrubs soaked in blood. She had been shot at very close range in the back of the head. Detective Eric Barnes of the Dallas Police Department was minutes from home when he got the call about the homicide. He said the area the shooting happened in was surprising to him. They called it Uptown, a safe and affluent area full of expensive apartments and stores, growing families, and great schools. There was very little violent crime, let alone anything close to this. Already his mind was racing. When authorities got to the complex, they found a gun magazine next to Kendra's body, next to a shell casing and her phone. Her name was sewn into her scrubs, so they had that right away. They got into her phone and went through the call logs. Ricky was the last person she had spoken to. And minutes later, Ricky arrived at the building. He had picked up dinner for the pair of them and was walking into a sea of yellow crime scene tape. Well, first of all, the building is called Gables Park 17. It's one of the most expensive buildings that you can live in Dallas. It's actually part of the skyline, but the parking situation there is completely bogus. There's no guard at the gate. I was actually there a few weeks ago for a birthday party, and you can drive in and piggyback off of cars that are going in. So if you live there, Nancy, and I just happen to drive in behind you, the gate goes up, but it doesn't go down like an arm gate would. One car at a time. Her purse was missing, making them initially think this was a robbery, but once they got hold of the cameras, it started pointing in a very different direction. We had a shooting. We're looking for a black Jeep Cherokee. A witness had spotted a Jeep Cherokee racing out of the parking lot and working backwards with the cameras. They saw the Jeep enter the lot very quickly at 7:14 p.m. and parked just off camera, but by the entrance. Then, 3 minutes later, the driver raced in behind another resident and swung around into a parking spot opposite Kendra's. Kendra's white car pulled in about 20 minutes after this. As soon as her car went past the Jeep, a grainy image showed a person jumping out and walking quickly towards her car before breaking into a run. As the shots were fired off camera, the Jeep backed up and the shooter got into the back seat. The vehicle sped off and was out of the parking lot just 2 minutes later. They tested the spent shell casing and the ammunition clip, but there was no DNA or fingerprints on them. This was a carefully planned out murder for hire plot. Although they had the vehicle, the time, and now knew that it was at least 2 people in that car, the footage just was not clear enough to determine anything about them or the number plate. Another shot from a different floor was a lot brighter and clearer, and they could just about make out a woman in the driver's seat. If they see this vehicle, we'd like them to call 911, report it to Dallas police. He had been broken up from his ex-girlfriend Brenda Delgado for a while, and, safe to say, she had not taken it well. Even less so when she found out about Kendra. She started showing up wherever he was, everything from salsa classes to his early morning park runs. He thought the driver looked a bit like her. No sooner had the police written down Brenda's name, they got another call, this time from a local mechanic. It was his Jeep. A woman had come in reporting issues with her car, and whilst it was being fixed, he had provided her with a temporary vehicle. The customer's name was Brenda. 33-year-old Brenda was a dental hygiene student and was also very devout when it came to her faith. Her family said she was a hard worker with many different jobs at the same time, a great student, and someone who lived a very clean life. Ricky had ended their 2-year relationship earlier that year. 2 days after Kendra was killed, Detective Barnes asked Brenda to come in. She was more than happy to. Young lady was killed on Wednesday, and I'm the guy that's assigned to that case. Your name came up in the investigation, so I wanted to sit down and talk with you. Kind of, how did my name come up? Okay, I was playing all of that to you. Yes. I want to know, Dot. She was shocked to have been dragged into this awful situation, and she said she just wanted to help get to the bottom of it. She spotted an I am second band on Detective Barnes' wrist. a faith-based band designed to serve as a reminder to put God first and others before yourself. Brenda told him about her faith and her family and how she felt connected to him right away. She said, as a woman of God, she wanted to help, be honest, and support the investigation. She was calm, friendly, and polite, and showed no signs of being distressed or stressed, even casually reapplying her makeup while she was waiting. This, along with knowing what they did about her background and life, just didn't seem to fit the crime. Brenda said she knew someone had been shot and killed, but had no idea who it was. And even when Detective Barnes pulled out a picture of Kendra, she said the face didn't mean anything to her. Perhaps they had got it completely wrong. Or perhaps it had been put together perfectly. Detective Barnes said even though the receipt was there, all her facts lined up, something felt forced. She had every single detail for every single part of her day, in a way that seemed rehearsed, overly organized. They showed her the still image of the Jeep, and she said yes. She recognized it. It was one she had borrowed, but it wasn't her driving it. Her friend Crystal had used it to drop her at the library and then driven off. Who gave you a ride? Barnes said that Crystal's stories were all over the place from the get-go, very different from the well-put-together Brenda. Crystal did admit to driving the Jeep, but she changed her story on why she was there and how this had come to be. She first said that she had pulled into the apartment parking complex looking for a spot to park in so she and her son could go and eat. She heard a loud pop and then drove back out, but they already knew from the timings that this didn't add up. Why would she have sat in the car for almost 30 minutes just waiting for nothing? Who else was in the vehicle with you? Just my son, and he was asleep in the back. Honestly, no. I want to be able to trust you and I want to be able to believe you. Her second story was that a masked man had jumped in the front of the car and forced her to drive to the parking spot by holding a knife to her stomach. This story started to fall apart as quickly as she was telling it. She then said that Brenda had paid her $500 cash and drugs, telling her she just wanted someone to steal a woman's purse and wallet, someone who lived there. All Crystal had to do was drive. She said she didn't really pay attention to the details or ask any more questions. She just wanted the money to feed her kids. Crystal said she sat in the car as someone she knew only as Lamar jumped music out and pulled the trigger. They then sped off and quickly separated after that. Crystal had no connection to Kendra and no reason to lie about witnessing a murder and not doing anything. Brenda had a connection and therefore a big reason to lie. Detective Barnes did have enough to charge Crystal with murder, and she was hauled into custody. Would you say it's a big coincidence that your ex-boyfriend's girlfriend ends up dead and your friend ends up driving in the same parking lot that this happens at around the same time that happens in a Jeep that you borrow? Crystal borrows the Jeep. She borrows a Jeep from your friend. Crystal ends up in this parking garage. Your friend, your friend's Jeep, your ex-boyfriend's girlfriend, all three of those things point back to you. Because what I'm searching for is the truth. That's why I wear this. I'm searching for truth. I'm not searching for good guy, bad guy. That's not my job. My job is to put out this is what happened, this is why this happened, and where do we go from here. That's what my job is, okay? And I know that sometimes people make mistakes, and I understand especially emotions are involved when it comes to relationships. This isn't rocket science. People will put this together very fast. You want me to explain to you what motive is? Because you may not know the definition of motive. Motive is what drives something. It just isn't enough to say that your gut is telling you someone is lying. The prosecutors needed more solid evidence, so they wouldn't sign the arrest warrant in relation to Kendra's murder. The police were only able to hold Brenda on some outstanding parking tickets. Due to this being so low priority, overcrowding in custody, and Brenda paying the unpaid bill then and there, she was released after a few hours. And just a few hours after that, she was on the run, crossing into Mexico in her father's car. They knew Brenda wasn't the shooter and Crystal was driving, so there was still a third person to find, Lamar, whoever he was. A month passed as police trolled through phone records for both Crystal and Brenda, and one number had cropped up a lot. Detective Barnes showed Crystal the number, and she said, yes, that was Lamar. She gave them his car details too. a blue cries the Sebring. His name was actually Christopher Love, a low-level cannabis dealer around town with 12 arrests on his record. Christopher sat down for what would turn into a 22-hour interview. He denied everything. He hadn't heard of Kendra, hadn't seen Brenda or Crystal's faces before, had never owned a gun or been in possession of one either. But police tracked down his car, which was sat in an impound lot, and a police dog found the exact gun they were looking for hidden in a compartment. "We did a search warrant on your car, and we found a gun in your car." Christopher now admitted he was there, but he said he was only going to rob Kendra's purse. And as he approached, Crystal was the one to lean out of the window and shoot Kendra from the driver's seat. The cameras didn't lie, and that was clearly not what had happened. Crystal was the driver. Christopher pulled the trigger. And Brenda, who had put everything together, had tried to keep herself squeaky clean. "When y'all going to get Brenda? We're going to work on getting Brenda, man. Hey, y'all going to work on y'all need to go get her. Y'all came and got me. What's that? Y'all came and got me. Yeah, I need to be going to get her. We're going to get her." Christopher finally came clean and said that Brenda had promised him a lifetime supply of drugs if he was the shooter. He wanted to be the biggest drug dealer in Dallas. And Brenda said she had connections to the cartel, so she could help tonight. We announced the arrest of Christopher Love. Music. He too was charged with capital murder. The mastermind, though, Brenda, was still missing somewhere in Mexico, and while the manhunt was on, stories about her obsession with Ricky and Kendra just kept coming. She was absolutely fixated on them, and her life was turning into a total mess. She kept pictures of the two, of them on her phone, had access to his iCloud, password, schedule, social security number, as well as some of his personal emails and text messages. She had also downloaded an app onto his phone so she could see exactly where he was. She had been stalking the pair of them for months, and she now wanted Kendra out of the picture by any means necessary. Kevin Brooks, the lead prosecutor, said that people had characterized the crime as a love triangle, but that was not the case. He said in a love triangle, those three individuals generally know each other. That beautiful soul, Kendra Hatcher, she didn't know this lady. The only person in a love triangle is Delgado, and it's a love triangle that she created. Crystal pleaded guilty to everything and agreed to testify against both Christopher and Brenda as part of her plea deal. Christopher rejected a plea deal where prosecutors asked him to testify against Brenda. Due to his lack of plea, he was now facing the death penalty if convicted. New developments in a dentist murder mystery. The FBI is searching for this woman now on America's Most Wanted list. This morning, after a month-long investigation, Dallas police zeroing in on 33-year-old Brenda Delgado. Delgado's addition to the list underscores the violent and calculated nature of the crime she's accused of committing. Brenda had now been on the run in Mexico for 6 months, and the FBI had made her the 9th woman to be placed on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. They asked her family for help, but they were not cooperating, instead sending her money so she could keep going. But it was thanks to this that they were finally able to locate her in the city of Torreon. A further 6 months would pass with her in jail as extradition was worked out. Extradition is an extremely long and complex process anyway, but Mexico's extradition policy means that their own citizens cannot be brought back to be tried under the death penalty. Brenda had dual citizenship, so prosecutors had to make compromises on what she would be facing in order to get her back to Dallas. FBI's most wanted woman behind bars tonight. Brenda Delgado was taken into custody in Mexico. Authorities call her the mastermind behind a murder-for-hire plot that left a Dallas dentist. The arrest coming just 48 hours after investigators made her the 9th woman ever added to their most wanted list. Brenda went on trial in June of 2019, and the prosecution were not short of witnesses and experts. First at 6, a love triangle, murder-for-hire plot, an international escape now playing out in a Dallas County courtroom. This all sounds like a soap opera plotline, but it is a devastating reality for Dr. Kendra Hatcher's friends and family. Well, it was shocking video and also testimony today. 2 people took the stand to say that Brenda Delgado also tried to hire them to kill Dr. Kendra Hatcher. They say by either poisoning her, shooting her, or beating her to death. None of them, though, went to police. So they say that Brenda Delgado kept searching for a hitman? They say she finally found one, Christopher Love, who was willing to take money and drugs for murder. A series of people testified that Brenda had asked them to carry out the murder before Crystal and Christopher agreed, including her own cousin Moses. He said Brenda had shown him a baseball bat and asked him to beat Kendra to death. She also spoke to her roommate Jennifer about killing Kendra. She just wanted to eliminate Kendra Hatcher or even both of them. And in return for doing that, what were you supposed to get? Drugs, $2,000, and a car. Ricky testified too, and started crying when he was asked to look at Brenda and identify her. As promised, as part of her plea deal, Crystal testified against Brenda, and given the fact that Christopher had refused, she was really the main witness that they wanted to hear from. She was the only person that could pull it all together. I got $500, and who paid? Who paid you? Brenda did. She wanted to get rid of Kendra Hatcher because she was envious of her. Is that the chief you were driving that day? Yes. Is that you and that driver's? Yes. What about Ricky's phone? Was there something able to be done with Ricky's phone? Yes. Brenda had Ricky's iPhone account logged into another iPhone, and she was able to track him that way to see when they bought the plane tickets to Mexico to San Francisco and what was going on with the purchase on the house in San Francisco. So where would you follow Dr. Hatch? We would follow her to her job and to the parking garage where she lived on Cedar Springs. Did you ever go inside that parking garage before September 2nd? Yes, we did. Me and Brenda did. And how would you get into that parking lot? We would sit in the visitors' parking place first, and then when another vehicle who had a parking pass would come in, we would go in. You follow that person right in? Yes. Crystal told jurors how she, Brenda, and sometimes Christopher used different cars to follow Kendra between her work and home while weighing up different options to kill her. One way would be to inject her. Another plan was to kidnap her. But Brenda's lawyer said it all pointed towards everything being Crystal's idea. Her attorneys called Cortez a liar who planned a robbery of Hatcher herself and implicated her friend to avoid a death sentence. As you get hopelessly caught in a one lie, you start telling another one. Correct. The capital murder trial against Brenda Delgado continues. Jurors saw this police body cam video. It shows the moments after Kendra Hatcher was murdered. And we're also learning more about text messages that Delgado sent to her ex-boyfriend in the days following the killing. CBS's Nicole Jacobs is live outside the Dallas County Courthouse with more on the story. Nicole Russ, for the first time, Kendra Hatcher's mother and boyfriend came face-to-face with the woman accused of orchestrating Hatcher's murder. For this trial, prosecutors are outlining a case of jealousy and obsession against Brenda Delgado, calling to the stand her cousin and her former best friend, both testifying. Delgado offered them the job first, which they turned down. Prosecutors say she eventually found two people who would carry out the hit and kill Hatcher, who was Delgado's ex-boyfriend's new love interest. In the days following the murder, Delgado brazenly contacted her ex-boyfriend offering support. She was offering any assistance such as providing groceries or other items that we might need. And day 2 of testimony begins this morning. On day E, it was time for Detective Eric Barnes to take the stand. Arguably one of the closest people to the whole case, he said he kept trying to make eye contact with Brenda to let her know that she might have pulled the wool over other people's eyes, but not him. The defense rested without getting Brenda to testify herself. And after a rapid 18 minutes, the jury was back with their verdict. Brenda Delgado, the mastermind in the murder for hire plot targeting a Dallas dentist, today convicted of capital murder. The jury not only believed beyond a reasonable doubt that Brenda had orchestrated the hit, they didn't think she felt even an ounce of care for what had happened. One juror said the only word you could really use was sociopathic. As the death penalty had long been off the table, Brenda Delgado was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Before she was sent back to her cell, the court heard from Kendra's mom and sister, "I take comfort in knowing our God has given our Kendra the ultimate spot in heaven, a spot in which you will never see. You, Brenda Delgado, have earned your spot on this earth behind cold steel bars for the rest of your miserable, pathetic life. Crystal Cortez was sentenced to 35 years, but is first eligible for parole in 2033. The same jury who convicted Christopher Love of murdering Kendra Hatcher last week sentenced him to death just over an hour ago. 36-year-old Christopher Love was found guilty of capital murder and sentenced to death by lethal injection. As of May 2026, he still sits on death row. Ricky completed his residency in dermatology and then moved back to California. He works as part of the Kaiser Permanente team, and in his profile he wrote, "I feel fortunate to now be in the Sacramento Valley with the opportunity to live close to family. My sincerest goal is to provide empathetic, respectful, and kind care while identifying the optimal management strategy for each patient." The murder of Kendra Hatcher is a tragic reminder of how unchecked jealousy, resentment, and obsession can totally destroy lives. Kendra was a woman with a promising future, and she lost everything because she became the target of someone else's insecurity. And in choosing revenge, Brenda not only took her life, but also destroyed her own. She could have built a perfectly lovely life for herself and just let two innocent people live theirs too. One of Kendra's closest friends, Tammy, said, "I don't do a lot of smiling anymore. I've isolated myself from a lot of my friends. It has affected my marriage, my ability as a mother. It is affecting everything, and I'm not the only one." This is a butterfly effect. Kendra's murder has affected thousands of people. Kendra's family was robbed of years of memories, celebrations, and moments they should have shared with her. She was a compassionate, selfless, caring person, and she was just starting a life with someone that she loved very much. A humble and difficult start in life, hers was now in her control, and she was thriving in all areas. Kendra Hatcher really did have it all, right until that tragic day that nobody could have seen coming in September of 2015. If you'd like to support our channel and help us to continue to make content, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.